Hello, I'm Martin Kelly, Senior Editor of Friends Journal, and with me today is Joseph Ingoldsby from Allen's Neck Meeting in Massachusetts. And Joseph has an article in the January Friends Journal on climate change. And this is an interesting piece in that it's not just a sort of theory of climate change, but a very specific one about a meeting and its long-time tradition. So welcome, Joseph.
Thank you so much for having me.
And tell us about the Allen's Neck Clam Bake.
Well, the Allen's Neck Clam Bake is part of a 125-year-plus tradition established at the Allen's Neck Meeting, which is in South Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And what you should know is that it carries on a further tradition of friends in Dartmouth, with the founding of Dartmouth 350 years ago in 1664. The Quakers at that time were persecuted people, and so they came to the wilds of Dartmouth from Plymouth and other areas to establish their own community. And that community tradition has remained to this day, with many of the founding families continuing to farm and fish in South Dartmouth and Westport, as Old Dartmouth had been. So the Allen's Neck Meeting Clam Bake was established on the third Thursday of August, and that carried on for over 125 years. And on the wall of the Great Hall in the Allen's Neck Meeting is a listing that shows what exactly should be as part of the Allen's Neck Clam Bake, as well as a song. So the Allen's Neck Clam Bake site must be safe and smooth and convenient. It has 1 quart of dry hardwood cut in 4-foot lengths, 1 truckload of rockweed, 1.5 tons of stones the size of cantaloupe melons, and all clam bakes are not alike, it says. They vary in menu. Allen's Neck always has the same menu. Now, the reason that I'm tying into the traditions of Old Dartmouth is that the traditions continue to this day, although altered because of changes in the landscape. And part of that change has to do with the warming of Buzzards Bay, and also the loss of the fisheries and the shell fisheries to a degree. So, for example, in the past, some traditions continue. In the past, Quakers would gather rockweed. I hope you can see this, using ox carts, and you can see the Quakers are in early dress. And as part of the clam bake, you want the rockweed, which has these small buoys filled with salt water that, when heated, open up and steam the clams and the fish. Now, the fish in the past had been summer mackerel, which would begin to enter into Buzzards Bay reliably the third Thursday of August. Unfortunately, they no longer enter into the waters because they have a limitation in terms of what they can tolerate. And since 1964, that temperature has been reached. It's beyond their ability to adapt. And so I'm just going to pull some images for you just to show what some of the changes are like here. Now, what happens is the tradition does continue with the gathering of the stone. For example, that the stones are heated up with the cords of hardwood. The corn still continues to be grown on the south coast of Dartmouth.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And the stones, once heated, are then pulled aside, and the heated slab is covered with the rockweed. And you can see that the steamers are put in place. And in the past, it's all completely layered with the steamers, and then the steamers to the corn to like a dressing, and with potatoes and sweet potatoes, and then it's finished off with the tradition of the ladies of the bake with pies of every flavor imaginable.
Ah, there we go. Now we see the pies. Very good.
Yeah. And the Allen's Neck meeting ranges from 30 people on a winter's day to buoying to 100 in summer. And with the Allen's Neck meeting, which is one form of ministry for the Allen's Neck friends, brings in over 500 people. So it's one of the ministries that is followed to open up the friends to the greater community. Now I'm just going to show you some images of the early herring runs that they had. They started out drying the nets on Horseneck Beach, to putting out small dories that would encircle the schools of summer mackerel.
Oh, if you could lift that up just a little bit, we can see it. Oh, yes.
And the dories are somewhat unique with their sail arrangement. But this is a tradition that is a dying tradition, and the summer mackerel is no longer on the menu for the Allen's Neck clam bake. Now, what's also interesting is in terms of the gathering of the rockweed, it has been a long tradition. So they had originally either used the ox cart, or they brought it in these small, somewhat flat-bottomed boats with sails. Another image. Other traditions are also missing here. This is Ealing. This is Gus Gunnett, a friend from the Allen's Neck meeting, now deceased. But he had the tradition of working the calendar from the early smelt fishing as the winter ice broke to the white fishing. There's a white fish in which he illustrated to me a very interesting technique that was passed on from his great-grandfather to him that was learned from the natives. And the Quakers and the natives had a wonderful sort of working relationship. I think that there was a rapport in which they would trade and share technologies. So they showed how to catch the frost fish. And so I have Gus Gannett's a frostfish lure, which is a fan of beech leaves or oak leaves that are on a long stick that are tied with thread, and then he would make a motion where he'd break a hole in the ice, and then he would put the stick in the leaves, and he would wave it back and forth like this, and the frostfish would come to investigate because they were the same color as these autumn leaves. And he would pull up a button thread net under it, capture the fish against the ice, and pull it out and put it into a bucket. But the frostfish is another one of the functionally extinct fish because of changes in global warming and climate change. There's been a real alteration with cold water fisheries in this region. We were having a more tropically or adaptive species than the cold water species, which are migrating northward or into deeper waters. So we no longer have the smelt, which was historically caught here in great numbers. We no longer have the herring to the degree that we had. The frostfish are gone, as I mentioned, and the eels as well are disappearing. They had been part of the original diet of Johnny cakes and eels, which was a tradition at Fred and Ann's in Westport, Massachusetts, which was part of the old Dartmouth, but no longer. They are now functionally extinct for a number of reasons, including the warming of Buzzards Bay. So what is interesting, though, is that the familial traditions continue at Allen's Neck Meeting. There is a network, almost like from roots of the tree to the tips of the branches, in which families pass on their chores, which for the Allen's Neck Meeting clam bake would mean that the family that was in charge of the ladies of the bake would continue with this process. They would, their daughters, then their granddaughters, and then their great-granddaughters carry on the same sort of tradition. And what's interesting is that that's also the case with the bake master for Allen's Neck. It's passed on through familial ties, and which means that the Quaker tradition is rooted deep in the soils of old Dartmouth, and it continues to this day. So even though you do have a change in the landscape, it's comforting to know that the family traditions continue here, and I think that is a blessing. The original motto for the town of Dartmouth is Utile Dulce, which can be translated is to work for the general good as friends. It carries on the tradition of peace and of justice, equity, equality that the Quakers are known for historically over time, and that's been unchanged. And one of my hopes is that the Friends, through their prayers and through their works, could become part of that same tradition that was used originally with the freeing of the slaves, where the Quakers acted as conduits for slaves fleeing northward out of captivity, to the civil rights movement, to the peace movements over time. Why not channel energies towards the education and activization, I suppose, or activism towards climate change, because it's something that's critically important these days. We see it as a microcosm in South Dartmouth at Allen's Neck, but on a much larger scale, it's happening elsewhere to greater degrees than here.
Well, great, Joseph. We're sort of running out of time, I think, but that's great. And I just want to let others know. In the issue of Friends Journal here, we actually have someone else talking about sort of Friends' abolition of slavery work being a model for climate change, and we also have lots of examples of Friends who are doing the activism and getting out there. So it's a nice mix of articles, and very happy to have this one on Allen's Neck about how Friends have adapted over time. So you're optimistic there about Allen's Neck being able to adapt and continuing to adapt?
Yes, it's growing. It's at this point it's in transition, and is reaching out on multiple levels to the greater community through ministries of using music, through community dinners that are being offered. There are a number of programs that are being developed to increase the awareness and also to increase the influence of the Friends within the greater community. So yes, the Allen's Neck meeting is strong and is getting stronger, And as one generation passes, another generation takes its place. And what's quite interesting about South Dartmouth is that many of the names are the same from the founding in the 17th century to today. Those families continue to maintain and protect the land and nurture it on whether haying, dairy, various animals that are being raised. There's always been that tradition of working the land, because this is a beautiful temperate landscape above Buzzards Bay, and it's suitable for crops and vineyards and orchards and animals, and so it's somewhat of a microcosm that has maintained its tradition.
Well, thank you very much for that. And again, friends, Joseph Ingoldsby's article is in the new coming in mailboxes soon, January issue of Friends Journal. And thank you for joining me from Massachusetts.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.